Welcome to KPFT election coverage, live election coverage. In the house today is the one and only Wally James of the Progressive Forum, Susan Phillips of Open Journal, of course, yours truly, Egberto Willies, Politics Done Right. Welcome aboard. How are you doing, Wally?
Doing good. Good to see you, Egberto.
Man, it's great to be in the house
Susan.
with all of you guys right here at KPFT. Susan, how are you doing today? Well, look, you know what? We're going to have fun. This is a big election, not only locally, but nationally. It's going to have a lot to do with the direction of the country. What's your thoughts on that, Susan?
Oh, I just hope we're heading in the right direction.
Well, you know, I don't know if we just have to say in the right direction. We just have to say we're heading somewhere, you know, and we're going to make that direction, right, Wally?
Well, I certainly hope so. And the thing is that we have one side that wants to follow Donald Trump, wants us to make it where elections don't count anymore. You have people running on the Republican side. They're saying, you elect me and a Democrat will never win in this state again. So that's pretty serious stuff. So I think a lot of people are concerned because of that reason.
Now, based on what the outcomes, well, we had a great start. The early voting was pretty darn good. I mean, it seems like what else? I don't want to say the good guys, but the folks that really believe in democracy, it seems like they were ahead in the race, but we don't know what comes later on today. But if you listen to the pundits, it's going to be disastrous to some. If that becomes an eventuality, what do we do?
We just keep on working. We just keep on doing everything we can. We got to fight for democracy. That's all there is to it.
And I think we will. Susan?
Well, I'm wondering if the Republicans take over one or both houses, is it going to be possible to win another election? How much damage could they do?
Well, you know, they could do a lot of damage, but I tell you what, with the work that we do here, I mean, the work that all of us do here in the different programming, our big goal is always convincing people of doing the right thing. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. But I kind of have a feeling, I believe in some of the stuff that Obama would say when he says the effect that the arc of history or the arc of, I think it's history, is always moving forward. Sometimes you have a few steps backwards, but it's always moving forward. And that's what I am working towards. I don't use hope. That's what I'm working towards.
It's macro hope.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, well, we do what we can. We have to. And there's a lot of good people out there. And if this turns out the way that we fear, then there's going to be a lot of concerned people in this country that are going to get involved. And I don't know how much good it will do if we're at a place where you have states where there's no way a Democrat can get elected. I mean, it's pretty much that way with gerrymandering in this state already. But there's still some good Democrats out there that are being elected. And I don't know how you have a presidential election when you have states that are sewed up and it doesn't matter how people vote because they're going to put
electors.
Yes, in to serve their purposes.
Well, you know, that is a scary part. When we talk about, I am not concerned about the gerrymandering. I am concerned about the gerrymandering, but I'm not as concerned about it as I am of the Secretary of States who can actually say, well, you know what, this election doesn't count, and we'll go ahead and have the legislature, which came from gerrymandered districts, run. I think that's a bigger problem, right? Especially when you have a court system that is no longer driven by folks that really believe in the Constitution, but folks that are also themselves ideological. So how is that mitigated? I am really concerned about the only mitigation that there really is. So I'd love your thoughts. How is that mitigated?
I don't know. I really don't know how. I just know that we need change. The system that we have now is not working. Before all this, there are a number of states in this country. You're playing down gerrymandering, and compared to this, it is not as critical, but we're in this place because of gerrymandering.
That is so true. Mm-hmm. That is so true. I mean, maybe I shouldn't have been so I shouldn't have played down gerrymandering as much as looking at it in the static state that it is right now, but you're absolutely right.
Well, as gerrymandering makes each district look like a lava lamp interior,
Yes,
right? I mean,
yes.
it's nuts.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem like we're making much progress being able to fix that.
I mean, I think the only way that we fix it is it's going to take, well, constitutional amendments right now are out of, I mean, it can't happen based on the structure that we have right now. It just wouldn't happen. So, and with judges that are no longer, many of times I said no longer have a soul, don't really care about democracy anymore. We don't see, so the only thing that happens then is act for the business sector to get hurt. When I say hurt, I'm not talking violently here, but I'm
Sure.
saying for the business sector to be hurt where it does matter, because then the politicians that they control will ultimately say, halt.
Well, I mean, how's that working out for the advertisers that are trying to pull out on Elon
And
Musk?
Elon Musk, yeah. Well, eventually, I mean, here's the thing, right? You remember at the onset of the pandemic, when oil got to a negative state. In other words, they had to pay people to take the oil. In other words, they weren't selling the oil anymore. And suddenly people realized that we have power, but we have such short memories. And when we see elections like this, I'm looking at MSNBC right now and seeing some polls that doesn't look so bad, but we don't know where it is really. When you take a look at things and say, well, how can we make it better if we don't X? And what is the X?
I don't know. I mean, can you rephrase that? Because kind of just throwing me for a...
No problem. Let me just first say that it seems like we're, to our audience that are listening on the outside, we just had some really rearranging of a lot of our electronics here. So we may be having a bit of some issues with our transmission. Please stay tuned. We are cleaning it up as we speak. So it'll be taken care of. What I really want to ask, let me rephrase that question altogether. I don't believe in thinking all is lost. I never think all is lost. And my thing is, how do we move from this step where we're at right now? Earlier I said we're going to have to, where Susan says, how's it working out with Musk right now when we try to force advertisers to do XYZ, given that at some point we have control over our private sector in the long run. We have some sort of control. If we hurt them, when I say hurt them, I mean hurt them financially. Ultimately, they have to go to their puppets and say, hey, modify.
Yeah, I mean, if that happens. But you say puppets, and certainly they pull the strings with a lot of these politicians. But also, you're going to have people with huge egos that are going to be in a position of power. And are they really going to give that up because somebody's going to cut back on the money they're giving them? So I would certainly hope so, and I do hope so, that if it comes to that we can make a difference by putting pressure on these corporations. And but it's, we've got some really big egos out there that are going to just grab all the power they can.
Let me ask you a question then, and maybe Susan too. Think about this. My right-wing brothers and sisters, right? When they're starving, when things get to the point that they're starving, don't you think immediately they may just make that change like they maybe did under 2008?
Maybe. But I have relatives who are conservative, and they're in such a mindset, and they have bought into a lot of the stuff that's coming out of Trump and the far right wing, and they're not getting any alternative information. If you try and give it to them, they're not really listening.
No.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is, I don't recognize that name. You reckon?
Miku?
Okay, all right. Let's go live. Bring her on. Can you hear us?
Greetings. Yes, I certainly can, and thanks for bringing me on. Greetings to everyone on this panel or being a part of this discussion, and greetings to our KPFT audience who gets a chance. Now getting a chance to hear us live do the second broadcast analyzing or discussing an election. So, thanks to KPFT for presenting this opportunity to the public.
Yeah, absolutely. Akua, right? Let me
Yes.
ask. Let me ask you something because I didn't
And, oh,
quite
by
get.
the way, let me do a plug. This is Akua, host and producer of Pan African Journal, and host and co-executive producer of COVID Race and
Oh,
Democracy,
yeah.
one of
Hi.
Pacifica's only national programs that we've had in the last 20 years.
Excellent, Akua. Now, what are your thoughts? I don't want to sound negative at all, but what are your thoughts about what we're seeing in the elections thus far?
That we're repeating history. And you were right, what Obama said. Sometimes we take 5 steps forward and 10 steps backwards and another 2 steps forward. And that, I like to look at the long history of America and voting rights as it relates to people of color and as it relates to our non-people of color who've had to kind of come along with a trend of embracing what's right by humanity, not just what's right by the Constitution. When you really think about it, about voting rights, at first it was just white men that could
Yeah.
vote. And then eventually black men were voting, and then white women, and later on black women. But, we were at the back of the bus. And then eventually everyone had to fight initially to have a seat at the table. And it seems as though history is repeating itself. And for the women who really were pissed off about Roe versus Wade, it sort of energized, in my opinion, the younger women to participate even more in the voting process and shaping and molding the national discussion about who gets to control our womb. Men who we don't even know, dads that we don't know, husbands that we don't know. These people are having a say-so in how we function as women. And we don't get to have a say-so as to how they function as men. And that just doesn't seem like democracy to me. But anyway, that issue has driven some people to the polls in certain parts of the country, according to a poll. This issue was important to the Democrats, and they campaigned heavily after the Supreme Court's ruling striking down Roe versus Wade, and they reportedly enjoyed a slight advantage among voters nationwide. 52% said they trusted Democrats to handle abortion issues compared to 42% of trusted Republicans. And this is according to NBC exit poll. And the other thing I thought was interesting, according to their exit poll, is that they had a slight surprise that even with regard to foreign policy, which we haven't gotten into yet, that traditionally this was a stronghold issue for Republicans. But this year, voters are nearly split on which party they trust more.
Akua, I want to interrupt you a second because I want to make sure that our audience know what you're talking about. Are these the latest exit polls based on what has occurred today?
Yes. This is, hot off the press polls.
Well, let me tell you why I'm querying this, because those numbers, if those numbers are accurate, and I think y'all would attest to that, Wally and Susan, is that if that's the case, that would present something that is leaning more progressive in the general. Yeah.
In general. However, there's some other concerns. Here's a new report that, and this one is hot off the press as well, that the NACP is closely monitoring reports of long lines, disabled voting machines, and closed polling locations in Harris County, Texas, which includes Houston and surrounding suburbs. And in a statement to news sources, Tyler Sterling, the NACP's National Mobilization Director, said the civil rights organization is strongly urging everyone to vote in the final hours of this election if they haven't already. And of course, we all know that Harris County is the third most populous county in the country, in the U.S., and it has been inundated with reports of voting machine malfunctions and other issues, which has resulted in long lines in some places and closures in others. So this is what's happening. And registered voters, if you're listening, if you haven't voted, In Harris County, you can now cast a ballot at any of the county's voting locations, which at first, remember, you had to go to your precinct. So now they've made it easier for people to just vote wherever. So these are just some reports that have come in about what's happening. I did see something online about people complaining that they have had a power outage for about more than 8 hours today. I don't know exactly what part of town that was. I have to go back to my Twitter feed, but there have been reports on social media that swaths of areas in Houston that they have experienced a power shortage, a power outage.
.1 Pacifica Radio in Houston. We're having some technical difficulties, and we need to leave the air for just 2 minutes so they can fix that. So please be patient with us. We'll be right back. I want to thank Akua for calling in, and hope you stick around, Akua, and give us the rest of your thoughts. And again, we are here doing this special coverage for the elections. Right now, what we're doing is a 2-hour special with local host, and then coming up at 8 o'clock from 8 to 11, Amy Goodman's going to be doing her coverage. So stick around for all of that. This is KPFT, Houston. All right. They're still working on it. Hopefully we can get something done soon. And again, KPFT, listener-sponsored radio. We are in a new building. We have some new equipment. There's still some little bugs and quirks that we're trying to work out, and we're doing the best. All right? 2-minute break. Be right back. Oh, okay. All right.
So
we're back alive. Okay.
All right, Akua, are you still there? Akua?
Yes.
Okay,
I
yeah.
am still
We
here.
were having some technical problems, so we're back here. Akua, I need to query you with a few things because we don't have all this live data that you have right now. So tell me, what does it have to say with regard? Did I understand you right? That you said when it came to international issues, it was on par for both the Democrats and the Republicans as well?
That's what I'm reading here. That's my research suggests that, and I'm quoting from an NBC exit poll. It says traditionally a strong issue. This is usually a strong issue for Republicans.
Right.
50% are saying they trust the GOP, and 47% of the people in this country are saying they trust the Democrats.
That's a virtual tie. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I know
But
what
again,
an abortion. Yeah, an abortion. You said it was a super majority for Democrats.
Right. That's what they've reported as well. But will that really turn out votes? I mean, we know that people were upset, folks were angry, and it suggests that the younger folks were motivated to turn out in large numbers to vote. And I'm not certain what that means as far as numbers, but it looks like people on college campuses were really driven by the Roe versus Wade issue.
Well,
more so than the general population.
Harvard came out with a study a couple of days ago that said they expected 40% of the younger folks, Gen Zers, to vote. And if that's the case, this is going to be a much different election than we are posturing it to be. Susan, what's your thoughts on that?
On
young people voting more so than we expected?
Well, it seems like people get riled up when something major happens, like, the Supreme Court overturning Roe versus Wade. But it does seem like they swallow eventually the situation, and just we've just become normalized. It becomes and I mean, like the what I'm hoping is that the energy is still there, because it was there.
Yeah, I am. My biggest concern is apathy.
That's right. Apathy.
That people think that their vote doesn't really matter, which isn't ever the case. Their vote matters. It's a matter of whether you're consistent. The one thing I always take a look at at how Republicans operate. It took them 50 years to remove your right to have control over your body, over Akua's own body. It took 50 years. but they were consistent. One of the things I see generally on the progressive side, on the left, on the more moderate side is, we get something that you want and then you go to sleep. You forget about it.
Yeah, a lot of times people take things for granted, especially if you've had it for a long time. But like you say, the other side is not taking it for granted, and they're going to be patient, and they're going to chip away at it little by little, and eventually, they'll get what they want. But the thing is, we have to do the same thing.
Right.
We have to be determined to stand up for what we believe in and get more people involved. It's like you were talking with young people. There are more young people getting involved. But still, you have a lot of young people that this just doesn't really matter to them yet.
Yeah.
So, but one way or another, we need to reach more people so that we can make a difference.
Are we going to start taking live callers now? Okay.
You have to invite them.
And I know that's why I wanted to know if we were ready. Hey, folks, the reason I had to do that is there's so much happening in this studio. I think who said we're flying?
Dwayne Bradley had said that,
What's
but I
the
was
word?
repeating it. We're building the plane while we're flying
And
it.
that is exactly what happened. And I want to tell you guys the amount of work that Mo and all these guys are doing in here to keep this studio going live as they're making changes is just outstanding. But let's continue here. Folks, give us a call if you want to talk about what we're talking about here, the election, what your thoughts are. 713-526-5738, and I'll say it slower because I speak kind of fast. 713-526-5738. Give us a call and let us know what's going on. Let's see. Okay, and hit the number 2. Stuart always have to remind me to do that. You call 713-526-5738 and hit the number 2, el número 2 para llamar, to go ahead and speak to us. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from the community. Susan?
Well, where do we start?
Well, we can start anywhere. We can start and say, hey, guys, let's talk local.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, no, I was going to say, we ought to be just like they are, running for things like school board, dog catcher. I don't care, but we need to be more involved because that's what they're doing. And it's been going on for many years, sort of under the radar. People are too complacent. Maybe they feel like they've got other things to do. We're all busy, but I don't know. This is a little known fact, but I used to be a Republican. And
I forgive you.
Yeah. Well, I'm from Northern Maine. I was, I guess you would call it a Lincoln type of Republican, right? But, and I even, at some point in my radio career was working in Christian radio stations.
Right.
And I know they've been working on this for a very long time, and they've been very patient on it because they're playing the long game. There's a spiritual for some of them.
Yes.
Some of them, it's just a bit more cynical. But they believe that, they're working towards the promise.
Mm-hmm. It is sad. But wait, do you have anything to add to that, Wally?
I totally agree with what Susan's saying. And we have that. We see the other side doing it. And earlier I talked about having Republican relatives. And this, it's like you were saying, this is religious. This is something that goes to their soul, and they're going to fight for it all the way. And we have to have the same kind of belief and the same kind of courage to stand up for what we believe in.
Right. I know people who would crawl over broken glass to get to the polls, right? They believe it's part of their identity. It's who they are. And I'd like to see some of that spirit, on both sides of the aisle, actually.
When I say local, right, and that is how, and I think Akua could attest to this too, I think that is how you reach people, right? If you have a relationship with somebody on the school board level, that can actually migrate onto the state, the guy who's going to run for state representative and eventually run for a congressional district and eventually run for Senate. You've started to build relationships, and I live in Kingwood, a very red area in Harris County. And that's what I see. I see it starts in the churches. They even have these big parties in the park where they have the big barbecues and they have the family thing that they bring you out and they create they actually create community, right? And it is something that I think we are those that consider themselves progressives have to get into that. I mean, it's not enough to want what's good, right? You need more than what's good. You need to build community. Joe, come on in. Election, come on in on line 2, Joe.
Hey, how are y'all?
We're doing
Great.
fine. Talk to me.
I'm just wondering what's going to happen. You know, we're 30 minutes away from the polls closing. And, you know, I guess the thing I'm most wondering about is how far everyone is going to vote down this long ballot way into the important judges' election.
Right. That is, that is a very important message right there. I hope they do. It's a very, very long ballot. What's your thoughts on that, Susan?
Look, it's the longest ballot in the country.
The long ballot.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
it wasn't as long as I was expecting, though. I mean, it was actually quite.
It was quick. I mean, the
Well,
machine.
if you stay there and just keep punching.
Well, in my case, this is one of the first times, Joe, that I have gone and said, because of the way things are right now, I will only be voting. In my case, this is not for anybody else.
Sure.
I only voted Democrat this year because I thought it was existential for all the policies that we need.
Yeah. Well,
Now, what are the policies you think that are important for that the Democrats are on the right side of?
Well, I mean, when we talk about family leave, when we talk about true voter equality, or rather voter not having the type of voter suppression that we even have here in Texas. Additionally,
Do you think we have voter suppression here in Texas?
I know it's hard to fathom when you live in Kingwood like I do, or when you live in certain areas. But if you live in an area in Houston where you find problems with people that don't necessarily have easy access to their birth certificates, we think about that's not really a problem. But we found so many.
You don't need the birth. You don't need the birth certificate. You do need a ID, though.
And that's where I'm coming from,
Right.
right? That's where I'm coming from. There are people in this city, and the mere fact that many people don't know that there are people that live this way explains the problem, right? In other words, most of us are just fine, but you'd be surprised to see the condition of some, the conditions of not even having an electric bill to show that, hey, this is who I am. And the empathy requires us to see things like that, and many of us just don't. Your thoughts?
Do you think small employers should be required to give all employees family leave?
Let me ask you a question, right? When does I got to go to another person, but I really want to query you on this. When does something become a job as opposed to a hobby? Yes, we should have standards in this country, but here's a funny thing about it, sir, and this is very important. And here's the deal: if we had universal health care, if we had universal family leave, if we had all those things, small companies wouldn't be burdened with having to provide that and relegate it to corporations. But you see, as a society, we don't see the necessity to have these things so that we can truly have a society that we can have small employers and large corporations coexist on the same playing field. But what you're saying is, because a small corporation doesn't have the wherewithal of a large corporation, somehow the people who work for them should be substandard. And the calls are starting to come in, and I'm going to have to get it. So answer that one, and then we'll have to move on, sir.
I think that's a great question. Obamacare was supposed to level that playing field, as far as I remember. But it is a good question. But remember, 20 years ago,
Yes.
All family leave was unpaid.
Yes.
And, most employers can't afford to have just a spot open, paying someone their insurance and benefits, Social Security and everything.
True.
I think it's a good question, though.
Thank you so much for your
show, guys. Great show. Talk
Thank
to you later.
Thank you.
for your input. It means a lot.
Okay, let's go ahead and get to David. David, come on in.
What's up, Egberto? What should I say? Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, you were saying something about the way people respond when situations are tough. I remember when George Bush, 43, was president, and he was waging his this false flag operation in Iraq. And you remember that magazine, the Houston Press?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Wally James might remember the Houston Press.
Oh, I do.
And yeah, I don't know, Wally, during the Bush administration, the Houston Press was running all kinds of political cartoons, stuff in its pages that were anti-Bush, and they were certainly casting aspersions upon his holy war. But as soon as Barack Obama was elected, all that stuff just vanished.
I don't remember. I do remember the cartoons you're talking about. I couldn't. I don't remember any particular one. And what happened when Obama came in? I wasn't paying that close of attention that I know. But yes, that could have well happened. And then the reason is, the question is, what was the reason? Was it because Obama came in, or was it something else? But
well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there was if correlation is not necessarily causation,
right?
But I just became aware of the phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, but I think also when Obama was elected, a lot of people felt like, oh, finally, we're going to get some relief. And people thought he was going to be even more liberal or progressive than he actually was. In a lot of ways, he was more centrist. So I think a lot of people hoped that things were going to get better, but the fact is they did get better. It's just a matter of people's perception.
Right, and there was a lot of his plan, even though it was moderate, that was sort of gutted, over time. So.
Yeah, but go. I'm sorry. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, well, you said I don't know who the young lady is, but she said something. If you're young or whatever, however old you are, you said something about people crawling over broken glass to vote. Mm-hmm. Well, the problem I have is with people crawling over broken glass to keep me from voting.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I want to say something here because I think some may think that and necessarily so that sometimes we sound a bit partisan. And I want to address that. I want folks to come in. I want everybody that's listening to this program here to give us a call, irrespective of your particular belief or whatever. But everybody does have their slant in the things that they want. And also there are times that we must call out. I mean, you remember when Fox News came out with the phrase that said fair and balance, right? That was comical, right? Keeping you alive is not about being fair and balanced. It's about keeping you alive.
Right. Well, and speaking of keeping alive, as far as being, I think it's time, yes, to put partisan aside and just look at what is good for the country. I have this, this analogy, like we're all on this bus that's teetering over a cliff. And I think that Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Socialists, Green Party, everybody needs to work together and stop fighting about who gets to drive, because that's going to put us in the wrong direction. We need to, all of us, from both sides of the aisle of that bus, to move to the back together to right this bus before, and then once we get back to safety, once we've saved democracy, working together, then we can get back on the road and start arguing again about who gets to ride the bus.
And Sarah, I'm coming to you right now, but you know what I want to say to that, Susan? That is so true. But if you take a look at one other thing, right? Somebody that I know, it's like, why? But somebody that I just grew a huge amount of respect for was Liz Cheney.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yeah. And the reason I grew respect for Liz Cheney is she said, no. We have things that we have to take care of first. And then we can go back and start fighting about the other issues that we need to fight about. All right, Sarah, come on in. I want to hear what you got to say.
Hi. Well, my comment is certainly I wish we could all be on the same bus but where I'm going is I'm just remembering when the day that Trump was elected, I awakened with fear And that galvanized myself and all of my neighbors, everybody. We've been fighting to keep Democrats elected, and it's just, that was our focus, just to stay sane. But just recently, I was speaking with someone who said, well, when Obama was elected, that's when we galvanized. The Republicans had an 8-year head start.
Have you ever asked yourself why Obama galvanized so many more so than anyone else? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm from Mississippi, and I believe it has to have a racial origin.
Mm-hmm. And you associated that immediately with the Republican Party, though, Sarah. But
yes,
continue, because it's interesting. Yeah.
Well, McConnell, wasn't he the one who said at the beginning of the Obama administration that they would never pass anything Obama wanted? They were going to oppose him the whole way.
Yeah.
And they did, and it's that kind of determination where they decide they're not going to let this president achieve anything, and they thought that would shut him out, but he still got elected again. But it's something that you see on the other side, where they are so committed and they will do whatever it takes. And we need to find some way to work together, and right now I just don't see how that is.
Sarah, I'm coming back to you, but I want to remind folks that this is a call-in show. We'd love to hear from you. We don't have any results off of our local elections yet to talk to you about, but 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Sarah, you said something that's touching, right? You wish that all of us were in the same boat, and that is how, in fact, my show, Politics Done Right, that is where I try to drive that show. As progressive as I am, I try to say we actually are on the same boat. There are some who would have us believe that we aren't on the same boat, and henceforth the problems that we have. So, I mean, if everybody had your sentiment, I wish we all were on the same boat. We could all then pick up the paddle and paddle together, But anyway, anything else you'd like to add, ma'am?
No, except that I did talk to my family, and I got my brother to stop saying that if they were going to tax 100% of the profits of Republicans to even up the economy, that I finally made him realize we were talking income, not profits of the major corporations.
Right. That is great. Anyhow, let's see. Para ver. Chronicle says polls are open until 8 p.m. I am not sure what that's about, but I imagine they must have had some sort of problems with the polling machines.
Too long lines or something.
Too long lines. So, folks, remember, the polls are open till 8 o'clock, so get out there and go vote.
There is still time.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I spent the morning, for the first half of the day, making phone calls on, volunteering for the phone banks for DNC, calling people in Pennsylvania, right, to see if they're going to get out and vote. And it's amazing. A lot of people who responded positively said that they were going to go after work.
Wow. That just shows that we have a problem with voting, and we should really have a holiday or something like that.
Yes.
Akua, you are on the other line. I'm sorry. Go ahead, ma'am.
That is also why the Republicans wanted to all wait to vote today to slow down the workers.
Right. I mean, earlier a caller mentioned something when he asked, do we really think that there's voter suppression? And I understood where he's coming from, because if you live in the Heights or whatever, voting seems pretty easy. but there are pockets in this town that it's very difficult, and it's difficult purposefully. But anyhow, anything else you'd like to add, Sarah?
If there's nobody else waiting, can I tell a little story from?
We do have people waiting.
Yes, yes, we have waited.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you for listening, and yes, I got my paddle and I'm ready to get in the boat with somebody that will go forward.
I love that. I love
you.
that.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Akua, you have any new numbers for us?
I do. You had mentioned about Harris County extending the voting hours. Now, this
Okay,
was
thank you.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much, Sarah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, caller. This was approved by a judge. The judge approved extension of voting hours in Harris County until 8 p.m. But to vote the normal way, you still must be in line by 7 p.m.
Oh.
Otherwise, you have to vote provisionally. And they're recommending that anyone who wants to vote, please go to any voting location within Harris County with your ID. Even if you have your voter card, remember, you still need your ID. This is Texas, this is what they're doing. But they have extended it. And I'm wondering if this had anything to do with the power outage that I mentioned earlier. Hundreds of people have been without power for more than 8 hours.
Gotcha.
In parts of Harris County. So I wanted to report that. And I know we're talking about getting on the vote and that kind of thing, but I don't want us to gloss over the very violent and racist history of this country with regard to voting. Many African Americans in particular have died fighting for the right to vote. And during the heyday of Pacifica, it was Pacifica that was on the ground covering these stories. Otherwise, the world wouldn't know about it. But it was Pacifica that covered Fannie Lou Hamer, the March on Washington, the SNCC, all of these groups that have been fighting for the right to vote and building coalitions that would include everyone on the boat or under the big tent. And it seems to me during that era that people understood, progressive people, if one person is denied the right to vote, we're all denied the right to vote. And we are forgetting what happened at the Supreme Court level. In Mississippi, I believe. I can't think of the name of the county. It'll come to me. But just a couple of years ago, the Supreme Court ruled that certain areas of the Voting Rights Act could be...
VR4, Section 4. Yeah.
They've taken away the provision that monitored southern states in particular and the gerrymandering and the things that they were doing to make it harder and also prevent black and brown people from voting. So when the Supreme Court decided that, hey, we need to throw this away, all is well in the southern states, they went right back to creating laws and obstacles.
Within the hour.
Yeah, right back. So, yes, ideally we want people to move forward, and we will. But when you have legislators and lawmakers creating laws to make it harder for people to vote, something is wrong with that. And we cannot forget what happened on January the 6th.
Right.
Our own democracy that many people fought for was attacked, not by, I remember some of the earlier reports, these are just poor white folks from the Hicks or what. No. A whole plane full of people from a very affluent area of Texas were funded by the Supreme Court Justice's wife, Clarence Thomas. She sent a private plane to Texas to fly people up. Many of them had resources and money and businesses to Washington to protest the transfer of power. This is unprecedented when you have someone at that level of politics. A Supreme Court Justice's wife, trampling on our democracy. It's kind of hard to move forward when people like that are not held accountable for their actions.
You know what, though, Akua, and one of the first of all, I want to make sure that you don't think the idea of moving in the same boat was glossing over anything. It was more that
not at all.
Yeah,
not
that
at
we
all.
have to get together so that we can solve the problems that you just articulated. In other words, we need allies, and allies is not the good word anymore. The word is complicit. We need complicitous people to work towards making that change that's necessary. And in that, you have to be in the same boat, paddling, if you will. But but I just wanted to assure you, it's not about overglossing. In fact, one of the reasons they don't like critical thinking is because critical thinkers are going to say, "Wow, these are the things that we actually have to get done." Right, Susan?
Right. Well, and never mind though that critical race theory isn't being taught in the schools
Right.
actually. But the whole I don't want to. There's a whole nother topic about what critical thinking is.
Yeah, I mean, they don't like critical thinking. I mean, we don't want folks to learn how to sit back, analyze, and think. We just want folks to have the 10-second soundbite to make choices on.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Well,
and
it's called dumbing down the population. That's
Yes.
what it is. They say you put it in the book, people won't know because they're not going to crack the book
Akua, my
open.
daughter stopped me from using dumbing down. I was using that, and she said, "You make sure never to say that on the radio because these are the people you want."
Well, I think the folks that I represent, they understand what I mean.
No, I know.
because
I'm
we have that
kidding.
taking place.
I'm kidding, but my
Taking
daughter.
place today.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, in Harris County right now, the African American vote, I'm told, was down 10-15% because for some reason people are not voting this midterm election. For what I think folks are exhausted really because our community feels like we have to protect democracy. That let the black people do it. But literally, if my rights are taken away, everyone's rights will be taken away, as we saw with the voting with the Roe versus Wade. Because remember, prior to Roe versus Wade, none of the Voting Rights Protection Acts were approved by Congress.
Right.
Not one.
Right.
Not even the George Floyd Act, none of that. And then all of a sudden, Roe versus Wade came along and people were shocked. I was not, because we were creating this downward trend in this country where men who are out of touch with young people, out of touch with reality, many of them who've had all types of affairs and women having abortions for them, many of them hypocritical, folks are deciding what happens to a woman's womb. If America hasn't gone backwards, someone turn the lights on. I don't know what's going on anymore. And for the wives of these men to sit back and be silent, knowing that they can get on a plane and go wherever to do what they need to do to take care of unwanted pregnancies and leave the rest of women without resources to be subjected to being arrested for leaving the state to get an abortion, something's wrong with that. I mean, we've gone bonkers. We've gone crazy. For that level of control to be exercised on a woman's body and a woman's free thought, come on, guys. I mean, seriously, something is wrong with that. Because if this were the reverse, that women would say, okay, men, no sex for 5 years. We're tired of you making babies and not taking care of it. We're going to, anytime you decide to have sex, you got to pay, a penalty or something. You guys,
Akua, let me do a station call. 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. And Stuart wants me to remind you guys to hit the number 2 to come on air. 713-526-5738 is the number to call.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I want to make a long story short. We would not see this level of apathy. And I'm saying that our men need to walk hand in hand with women who are shouting that you're taking my rights away as a woman to choose what's best for me and my health.
Akua, we're shouting, and I, as a man, I am
affects
shouting.
men too.
yeah, we're with you. I mean, there are a lot of men that are really concerned about this, and we have to be. When you start taking rights away from one, you're taking it from all. And what you're saying, it's so true, and it needs to be heard. And that's why we're here tonight talking about it, because people need to understand what's going on, and we need to stand up, and we need to stand together and support each other.
Right, and none of these issues that we're talking about are going to matter really as far as anything we can do about it if our votes don't count.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
If we don't count, if we don't vote, and or if they don't count if we do.
713-526-5738. We're here to serve our community. Give us a call, 713-526-5738. What are your thoughts on not only our local elections, but for those of you who are listening outside of our immediate geographic area? What's your thoughts? 713-526-5738. Come on in and give us a call. Now, it looks, I don't know, but I don't know where these numbers are from, but Beasley in North Carolina so far seems to have a pretty good lead. I don't know if it's,
Well, all eyes are on Georgia as well, don't forget. And hey, there's a new report in 32 minutes ago.
Yes.
That voting machine glitch roiled Arizona's Maricopa County and fueled false statements. Now, this is interesting that Maricopa County, again, is in the national news. This is really shady. Something's going on. Election integrity just doesn't seem to exist anymore. And for the people who had election integrity, who were nonpartisan, and they could have been from any party, those folks have been pushed out.
Yeah.
They've been pushed out of their positions. They have been threatened. And, again, you're thinking about the boat and the tent. We have allowed people, criminals literally, to intimidate good, hardworking, bipartisan Americans who happen to have a job of protecting our vote, of making sure the count was right. And these folks have been demeaned. I remember seeing the story about the woman in Georgia, she and her mother. Folks, the Trumpers came to their home, her grandmother's house, and threatened them. Where was the protection for them? They should have had federal protection. And this lady was forced out of her job because of the harassment. And I think I saw a story on her on 60 Minutes or something like that.
Yeah, if it's the one that went in front of Congress to
that one, yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't remember her name.
Right. So again, our process has become, just like they attacked the Capitol, they've attacked the voting process.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do we have any information?
Vote,
I'm sorry. I was going to ask, do we have any data on how the voting process has been going here in Harris County or in the Houston area in general?
Earlier today,
I just stated that in Harris County, a judge approved the extension of voting hours, so that tells you something right there.
Yeah, well, there were problems
no,
earlier in Harris County. A lot of machines were down, and there were people giving out slips to go to telling folks different close by locations that they could go vote. So we had some machine problems, but it seemed to me in Harris County that things were being handled fine. But then again, look at our government in Harris County. We have I hope one's able to hold on to it because we have a government here that is pretty functional. Is that somebody that to come on, or let's go ahead and have let's see. Oh, it's only certain locations that have their hours extended due to power shortages. So make sure make sure you go to one. But the best thing, you still have 7 minutes. 7 minutes to get out there. 7 minutes to get out there. Anyway, folks, give us a call, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Is there somebody waiting to come on? Or okay, great. 713-526-5738. You would be quite lucky because you will get on air like immediately. So give us a call, 713-526-5738, and hit the number 2. And if you do that, you get to us right away. 713-526-5738.
No waiting in line.
No waiting in line.
I'd like to mention a few things. I'm looking on Twitter.
Yes.
And Beto O'Rourke, his team posted recently, today's election will determine whether we finally raise the 7.25 cents minimum wage. Just think people are making that in 2022, and some folks think it's okay post-pandemic for the first time in more than 13 years. Also, whether if we will expand Medicaid and lower our property taxes. And lastly, whether we would fully fund our children's education and raise teachers' pay.
You know, it
These
is.
are just some of the hot button issues for some of the voters in Harris County.
We have so much work to do, Wally. There are so many policies that make sense. If the caller that called earlier, who wanted to query about, well, should a small corporation or small company have to do the same thing as a large corporation? My answer, of course, is yes. And if they say they can't afford it, I said, why aren't our policies there to cover, to have a fair, an even playing field, right? These are what, isn't it the problem? One of our problems that when certain folks get into power, they underperform the things that most Americans really need, and that's why we're having a ping pong going back and forth, because when the quote unquote good guys are in power, their policies don't go far enough to for people to see the difference.
Well, and it would be pro-business too, right?
Yeah.
To make it easier, if not to have universal health care altogether, at least to perhaps subsidize the smaller companies who in order to help them to provide those benefits. It is a lot, like you said, a burden for a small business.
Yeah, it is amazing, right? I mean, we should actually Liberty Count results. Come on in, Ron.
Hey,
Hi.
Liberty County is performing at record levels.
Good.
Early voting set records exceeding.
Wait, Ron,
previous totals,
didn't I just interview you, Ron?
Yes.
Yeah, come on in.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Liberty County is setting records. Early voting established records of over 50% margins of the highest before, and this is a midterm year. These
Wow.
are other years, all years. I think. I haven't seen the actual numbers. Now, I've been in the field today at several voting precincts. In the city of Liberty, I've never seen anything like it. People are outside waiting past the 7 o'clock deadline in a few minutes. And I walked the line telling everyone, don't worry, you'll be allowed to vote. Don't leave for a Whataburger. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, I mean, Ron, if I recall the interview we had along with your whole posse, the Cleveland posse.
The Cleveland crew.
The Cleveland crew. You guys were out all over Liberty County and throughout that entire district. I think it is District 36.
That's correct.
Doing all that work. So it may be paying off for you.
Let me tell you that it's paying off to this extent. We know that Brian Babin paid for advertising in his home county Sunday.
Right.
And in the nearby Piney Woods counties of Jasper and Newton County and in Hardin County. That's pretty much unprecedented. He paid for big advertising in those counties. And that's a good sign. We have not concentrated up there. We've effectively ceded that to him because of the expense involved. We don't have a war chest.
Right.
We have John Hare, who is a retired nuclear engineer, who is financing this on his own.
Well, I spoke to the nuclear engineer as well, and he seemed like he fit the county perfectly. But of course, you have to get over those forces, the money forces. Is there anything you want to ask Ron and Wally?
Yes, I'd like to add that in Cleveland, we're seeing record turnouts again. And if you took the early voting turnouts and considered it all as a ratio, and apply the number 6 to overall voting. Mm-hmm. Cleveland voted 3 times. Dayton voted twice, and Liberty voted once as a ratio of early voting. I cannot do that yet with total voting, but I will be at the Liberty County Central Voting. So if there's a cell phone I could text results to, I can give you up-to-the-minute results from Liberty County, just as I am a reporter, so I can give you first-hand information from Liberty County if you like it.
Well, good. I'll get to you offline because we are done here at 8. And folks, don't forget, after our 2-hour stint here, we have another hour or so to go. We'll have Amy Goodman with Democracy Now!, who will be on for the next 3 hours, I believe. So please keep tuned into 90.1 FM Houston. Hey, thank you very much for the call, Ron. We're going to go to Kathleen next, and you keep up that great work. Okay, brother?
KPFT Houston, 90.1 Pacifica Radio.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, Kathleen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I would do better if I knew more people had voted. I'm going to say had now because, unfortunately, we right at 7 o'clock,
Right.
I think it's very thoughtless of people who say that they're not going to vote and that they've never voted and all that silly stuff because people have died for everybody to have the right to do so. Mm-hmm. And the next thing is people have put themselves out there to prevent you from voting. Yeah. And you should realize that if somebody's trying to stop you from doing something like that, you should really get out there and do it because it's for your benefit. And not only that, it's selfish. What you do or do not do regarding voting affects the lives of children for years to come. You'll be dead and gone. Maybe, maybe not absolutely, but perhaps. But it will affect those little people years down the line,
Yeah, well, Kathleen, I really wish that what we did was spend more time nurturing people, not only during the election season. I explained earlier what I see in the part of Harris County that I am, where their people are nurtured over and over and over again. Something that I think it's worth that we should learn. I honestly believe. But Kathleen, anything else you have to say before I go to the other caller?
That's been one of my disgruntled things. They wait until the last minute to start putting themselves out there.
Oh, great. Well, look,
the election.
Thank you so kindly for your call. But please remember to tell people about KPFT, okay? This great station back here, all right?
Always do.
All right.
Always do.
You have a wonderful day, ma'am.
Right.
Let's get to Chandler. Chandler, come on in.
Hi, I'm calling from the Woodlands, and, I've done early voting. Try to vote in every election, and I'm 26, so I'm part of the crowd. It's hard to get out to vote, but it really feels like there is an apathy for younger people when it comes to voting. Like Texas has the most polluted rivers now in the nation. I was an A&M student, and they closed down the Erling polling location on campus. It seems like the Democrats try to stifle every third party that shows up. In California, the Democratic, legislator over there had single-payer health care up for vote, and they shut it down. This is things that, people want. And obviously the Republicans are way worse. And it's just like, we don't feel represented by anybody. It's all the parties of business. And we just don't really see a future with, the common good in mind. And that's my call. Thank you so much.
Look, thank you for that call. Do you want to answer anything that he had to say, Wally, beforehand?
No, go ahead.
Let me tell you, because interestingly, right, I love what the young man had to say, because he's absolutely right. Single payer was about to get passed in California, a state that had close to a supermajority of Democrats, and it failed because of a few Democrats. Remember earlier I was talking to you about, is it that we don't give the people the things that they actually elected us or elected them to do, right?
Right.
In other words, you had the ability to pass single payer, but you allowed the plutocracy, the oligarchy, to get to a few of you that say, okay, let's hold back now. Let's hold back, because that stuff may actually work and people may actually start liking it and demand it not only in California, but hey, Texas.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and when you talk about Republicans, taking money from large donors, from these big corporations, Democrats do it too.
Right.
most of the time they side with us, the populists, more than the Republicans do. Oh, definitely lately it's definitely like that. But yeah, just because somebody is a Democrat and they're in power and you put them in power, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do what you want them to do. And when they don't, we need to let them know about it because they have to get reelected. So we can't just let this stuff slide. We need to do something when they act that way and they don't stand up for the people.
Well, Mansion and Cinema come to mind.
Yes, but I want to have a special message for this young man that just called, for Chandler. And Chandler, here's a message to you, right? Here's the deal, guy. Your vote does matter. Your vote does matter. And the thing about it is we need your vote so that we don't only get the neoliberal Democrat that doesn't always fulfill your need, but so that we have enough power to elect that progressive in the primary. Let me tell you how something works, okay? Everybody complains about, we can't get it done. We can't get it done. We can, but it has to occur in the primary. And it means you have to show up in the primary and elect the most progressive person if what you're looking for are progressive values. You have to go to the primaries and elect the progressive person, and then you got to come back out in the main stuff and elect that person. Folks, we're going to have former Mayor Anise Parker on, as well as Scott Broderick, what would you call him, a blogger? Or
Blogger?
I always called him a blogger.
Yeah.
Actually, a darn good blogger that will be on air starting at 7:30. So stick around, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Hey, Wally wants to answer your call. Susan wants to answer your call. We want to hear what you guys have to say, man.
Yeah, call us, 713-526-5738, and press 2. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, 2.
I'm surprised Stuart didn't just give me that thing and say, hey, Egberto, say 2. I always forget, Susan.
Well,
we've been saying it so long without the 2.
Yeah. Akua, any new information for us?
Sorry about that, Egberto. I've been receiving messages from our program director, and she wants me to remind everybody that according to the Houston Chronicle, the polls will be open until 8 p.m. I can't verify that, but
they still have to be in line by 7. Even if that's why the lady called and said it's almost 7. If you're not in line, you cannot vote. So the polls are open to 8, but the rule is you have to be in line by 7.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm responding to the prompting that I got from the program director. That's
fine, and I'm responding to what's posted on Twitter by Harris County Vote.
Thank you.
So, I just want to make sure we give people accurate information.
All right, thank you very much. Here's the deal, folks. 713-526-5738. We have a young man in there waiting to take that call, and he's sitting down there twiddling his fingers. Every now and then he shows me the number 2, the number 2, the number 2. Give him a call, 713-526-5738, and hit that number 2. 713-526-5738. Hey, we don't have any new numbers yet. They're too early to.
I wanted to mention a few things.
Yes,
no
go
new
ahead.
numbers, but I clicked back to something that energized voters and slogans that were used, and someone posted a picture of the controversial T-shirt that was done by Urban Outfitters in 2004. That said voting was for old people.
Mm-hmm.
And it struck a chord with members of Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, and eventually this shirt was discontinued. But they realized that this had an impact on voter apathy among young folks.
Mm-hmm.
And they just went on and did a study and put the stats there. Now, moving forward, when Obama ran for office, the slogan sort of took a more hipster point of view. Because from 2000 to 2004, they came up with Vote or Die and then Rock the Vote. And they said these two campaigns really worked and energized the younger base, which is why I mentioned at the top of the program that, the stats were out that the whole abortion issue was an energizing issue for young voters. So I'm not sure what else could drive people to the vote. The Dems were running on our democracy being at stake. But as we know, some people don't give a darn about democracy, following laws that were put in place by our government, and they're changing these laws.
Well, Akua, I think, and this is where I think, in my humble opinion, that that Democrats fail in general, and that is, you have to reach people in the gut, right? As an example, you want to talk about democracy. I understand all of that, but if democracy is not going to be the driver, I can tell you what's going to be the driver for all the folks that are on Social Security. It is their driver to say, next year Social Security is going to come up for a vote, and your only source of income is Social Security. Make your vote count. I because I'm on radio, I wouldn't say exactly what an ad that I would write would look like. Mm-hmm. But you see what I'm saying, Wally? They can feel that.
But that group is not the group that they have a problem turning out to vote.
No. But you're right. But here's what they do, though, Akua. Akua, here's what they do. You're right that that's not the group that that doesn't vote. They do vote, but they actually don't vote the progressive vote. They vote against their own interest.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. If they knew that vote was going to take their monies away, I bet it would be different. But nobody really makes the case in a manner that scares these folks into believing that that's what's going to happen, in my opinion.
Well, I think we're talking about overall messaging. And
yes.
It seems that the Dems have been weak on messaging. At least that's what's been told. But
no, I think it's true.
Well, someone posted on Twitter, though, and we have to consider this, that a lot of major corporate media outlets are Republican-owned. So is it really true that there's poor messaging, or is it true that their messages are not being covered?
Do you get the flyers? I get the flyers.
Well, it's not just the flyers. I'm talking about the talking points and the language. I listen very closely to language. Remember when Donald Trump ran for office, he didn't have to buy TV ads. They just covered him as though he was a news story. And it seems organized to me. It seems like a planned strategy. We're going to cover this man as a news story, not as a politician running for office, and we're going to make Hillary buy her ads.
What's interesting, Akua, let me interrupt you a second, Akua. What's interesting, right, is that if you take a look at, if you're a consultant or you're a politician that you get on your 10 seconds on TV, you ought to be prepared in that window, even knowing that host is not going to give you that time. You are prepared to get in your phrases unadulteratedly. We don't do that. I got a call. Hold on 1 second. I got a call. Brad, come on in. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Great. Talk to me.
Yeah. Elections, are marketing. Would you agree you're marketing the politicians?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, here's the question. What I'd like to know is, Democrats, they got, I think, creativity behind them. I mean, look at Hollywood's run by liberals, and Madison Avenue, New York City, probably have a bunch of liberals over there, correct?
I would say so.
I don't agree with that. Excuse me. Hold on. I don't agree with that. That's
no, but let him make his point, though. Let's make him make his point.
I do not agree with that.
That's fine.
Okay.
But I do agree with that. But go ahead.
Right. Here's the thing. If you got liberals that are creative, how come the commercials for the Democrats suck compared to the Republicans? The Republicans had better commercials.
Well, they have commercials, the ones we've been hearing here in Texas, with a lot of anger and trying to fire people up. But a lot of it isn't true, the way you're trying to bash these people. They're very professionally done, but, it's not... I don't think it's because it's better. It's because they hit people in their fear and things that scare them into doing what they want them to do.
I agree with Wally completely, but let me put it a little further before I get Akua to weigh in here, because I think what you just said, sir, was very important, and Akua may disagree with me on this one. Here's the deal. I listen to all these commercials, right? And the truth of the matter is, you are right. The Republican commercials are made are made that way. Let me give an example, okay? Which Democrat or Democratic consultant have you heard tell you that the folks in Austin are committed? If the definition of murder is to kill somebody, and if you have the policies that kill somebody, shouldn't you, a Republican would know how to make that commercial? If I were making a commercial that talks about the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, I would look at the studies that Harvard and other universities have made that actually show that Texas is losing over 2,300 people every year. They die because the free Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care that we had for the first 3 years of Obamacare and the 10% that we would have to pay thereafter, that caused the death of a lot of people. My commercial would have said, Austin murdering the citizens of Texas. But we don't see things like that, right?
I agree with you. I mean, look at Mueller and Hidalgo.
Exactly.
Mueller's commercials were just more powerful.
I don't think Mueller is going to win. We'll find out in a little bit. But still, you're right.
And Abbott's commercials were just better made than her work. They were just better. I didn't vote for Abbott. I'm just telling you that.
Wait, Susan wants to come in. I want to hear what Susan have to say, and then Akua. Susan.
Well, I saw an ad, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I edit audio, and it seems like they edited Beto O'Rourke to say things that he didn't say.
Oh, no, they did that.
And I don't see how that can be legal or allowed to do that. Isn't that libel?
The truth of the matter is, if they did that and it wasn't his words, they could do it, but they can cut it anyway.
They cut it to make it sound like he actually said, I'm going to defund the police.
And that's free speech. Believe it or not, that's free speech. And it's Beto's responsibility to come out with a commercial that puts what it actually said, and then reverse that commercial and said, if he's lying about this, what else is he lying about?
Right.
And they don't do commercials like that. In other words, when I'm saying you should always be on the attack,
yes.
And then after being on the attack, you use what they've done to you to show that they are not worthy of having that, but we don't do that.
Don't let them have all of the say. I mean, that's like, it reminds me of who's running for governor. What's her name? Carrie Lake. And her opponent, Katie Hobbs, is not responding. She's not debating her. She's not interacting at all. And
it's a fool's errand. But let me get Akua, because Akua had disagreed with me. Go on, Akua.
Well, I have to take a deep breath on this one because I'm, reading some things that we have to consider as to why things are muddled here in Texas in particular. One, we mentioned gerrymandering earlier that has caused the Republicans to win throughout the state. Don't forget, Kim Paxton has been under investigation. He is still the Attorney General, has been obstructing voting rights and supporting some of the illegal activity of the deniers, election deniers. And right now it's being...
Hold 1 second. Brad, could you turn your volume down, Brad, so you don't... because it's repeating itself. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Akua.
Okay. Right now, according to Texas Monthly, they're stating it's being... And this was a report that was done at 6:55. So, yes, this is hot off the press. It's being widely reported that former President DJT is going to declare his campaign to become future president shortly after this midterm election. Ain't that something? So
but you know what, Akua?
Not really. Well, let me mention one more thing before I forget, because I wanted to talk about what they're saying about the counties, and which is really sad, because I didn't know this until I read these stats, and it says, what makes rural Texas so overwhelmingly Republican? And it says, contrary to popular stereotypes, Texas is overwhelmingly an urban state, but 30 most populous counties account for around 80% of that state's population. And that doesn't mean rural voters can't stay away in elections. And then they went on to talk about this, which is interesting. It says since the 90s and 80s, of course, we know Texas has flipped Republicans in 55 mostly rural counties across the state. the Texas Democratic Party does not have a local chair. In the other 199 counties, fewer than 40 chairs told the Texas Monthly that they were doing door-to-door canvassing when they reached out. And it, went on to say that Democratic chair in Tom Green County, home to San Angelo, co-launched a PAC, which is trying to build a party in 134 counties. This is a problem. This is a problem. So I know we're talking about ads and how slick they are and how the messaging is more powerful on one over another. But when you have a party that doesn't have chairs in a number of counties to get their messaging out on the ground, that is traveling.
I got you. Cool. Let me see if Brad has anything else to add before we go to the next. Brad?
No, just you're still working with NASA, right?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, I left NASA years ago. I formed my own software company after that.
Well, you need to sell that software company, and you need to become a political consultant, or you can become a consultant to political consultants and tell them how to run a proper campaign.
Well, I don't think I'm qualified, but whatever the case is, man, I appreciate the thoughts. Anything else, sir?
You have a good evening.
You too, man. Look, I want to address something that because everybody around this table. Thank you very much. Everybody around this table is very smart, right? But I think sometimes all of us sometimes get too smart for our britches. And what I mean by that is, like when I hear Akua talk about all the things about Paxton, right? I'm saying, yeah, I want to tell folks that or whatever. But you know what? Republicans found out that many progressives and Democrats don't. And that is, people have learned how to abstract themselves from what these people do and get more tribal in that regards. Because here's the thing, Paxton did all these things, and Paxton has held these jobs just because folks think there's an ideological slant. But if Democrats,
I hear you, but I think Paxton aligned himself with Trump on a national level to cover his backside.
I agree.
To raise his profile.
I agree, Akua. No. I remember I'm agreeing with you, but what I'm saying is, I am agreeing with what you're saying. But what I'm saying is, unfortunately, for a lot of voters, that doesn't matter. And what happens with us many times, when I say us, I mean progressives or other folks, is that we think about how we see things, right, as opposed to how others see things, and even some in our own space. Let me give an example. Everything that you said to people, that is something Paxton did or does outside of their domain. They need to be told, and this is what Republicans are good at. By Paxton doing X, Y, and Z, he is hurting you. And that is what we haven't learned how to do. Look, I sit down sometimes in the blackness of the night, everything turned off in my office when I'm doing some blogging, and it's like, wow, that sounded good, but not one person is going to figure out what the hell I'm trying to say.
Right. Well, people are in their silos.
Right.
And they're not hearing. The people that need to hear these things aren't hearing it.
Yeah. And so I think that is where we have to get it. We have to. And you said it earlier. The thing that my daughter said never to say, dumbifying or dumbing down Akua. We have to find a way to get to where folks are, because the truth of the matter is the policies you support, Akua, Wally, and Susan support, are the ones most Americans in polls say that they want. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Well, it depends on who's doing the polls. Polls are not.
No. That's what I'm saying. Hear what I'm saying, though. What I'm saying is the following. I know the kind of policies you support as the person that you are, as well as Wally and Susan. And what I'm saying is, when we look at what pollsters have asked people, family leave and these things that they want, the people are more in agreement with the four of us than they are with the people they're voting for. You follow what I'm saying?
Here's the thing. Yeah, I do. And I want to inject what was written earlier, and this was just a few minutes ago. Texas Monthly, there's a vicious cycle, they say. Texas Republicans needed Trump this year to win their primaries and turn out voters who respond very strongly to
Right.
him and not so strongly to the party itself
Right.
or its ideology. So
Right.
that says a lot that people are voting for the Trump.
Yeah.
That they're voting because he says. They're not voting because Paxton or Abbott said do this or that and the other. They're voting star power.
Exactly.
And I think,
But we can break that. We can break
I think
that.
that's what the Republicans understand. Paxton and Abbott, because of a lot of reasons. Don't forget about what happened.
Yeah, let me ask for a
at the
call,
vote before.
Akua. Let me ask for a call. Just so people call us. 713-526-5738. Please give us a call. 713-526-5738 and hit the number 2. And this time I remembered. 713-526 KPFT. Hit the number 2, folks. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from the community. Hey, look, we're back on air after having been off for quite some time. Please tell your friends about 90.1 FM Houston, right, Wally?
That's right. We've been doing our shows from 2 years.
Yes.
And we're finally back live, and it is just so wonderful. And when we're in a great building here, there's still a little work going on to take out some of the rough edges, but it's so wonderful to be back live.
And it feels like home.
Yeah,
it does.
you know what's so cool, man? We still have that what is it, semicircle table?
Yes,
Yeah.
the table.
So you do feel like you're home. Of course, when we bang on the table, it goes on the
Oops.
and on the mic. So we have to fix that. Go ahead, Sakua.
No, I just want to thank everyone for listening.
Yes.
To KPFT and staying tuned and just riding the wave with us through COVID. I mean, many people have lost loved ones, and as we speak, I do want to send condolences to many of our members and programmers and whomever has been affected by this pandemic and lost loved ones. I myself, I've lost 2 loved ones within the last 2 weeks.
Oh,
Not
my
COVID
condolences,
related,
my friend.
But just loved ones. My brother passed on Monday, and we're all shocked by it. But it's not just my story. It's the story of many Americans now. People are, still passing away. I don't know when this moment, as far as what's happening with the rapid death rate in America, no one knows when this moment will slow down. In fact, one of my relatives is from Galveston Island, and we had to wait 2 weeks because of the number of people that they're funeralizing there. And this is recent. This is
Wow, I didn't know that.
the past. Yeah, because a lot of this stuff, they aren't reporting anymore. They're not reporting, what's happening anymore related to COVID deaths or just deaths in general. So I just want to make sure that to let our listeners know that we are thinking of you and thinking of your families, and we thank you for keeping KPFT on your radar and supporting us. And you can still do that by logging on to kpft.org. If you like what you hear, show us and let us know it by supporting us financially. So thanks.
Thank you, Akua. 713-526-5738. Hit the number 2. 713-526-5738. We'll be having Anise Parker shortly on air with you. Anise is our former mayor here in Houston, and following her will be Brad.
Do we have her on the line now?
Anise, how are you doing? She's not on yet? Okay. Anise, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing fine. This is Egberto, Susan, and
Wally. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today.
Oh, yeah, we just lost the last caller.
Oh, did we lose Anise? Oh, that's not cool.
No, or was that someone else
No,
who got disconnected?
I think that might have been Akua.
No, Anise, are you still there? Okay, no, we're waiting. Yeah, we're calling her back. Like I tell you, we are. What's the phrase again?
Building the plane while we're flying it.
We are building the plane. Oh, okay. We are building the plane while we are flying, Wally.
That's how it feels.
Yeah, but you know what? It feels good doing that because you know what? We've been longing to get back into this studio.
Oh, yeah.
Just dive right in.
And we're right in, so we're back. Anise, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I am not in Houston tonight. I'm calling in from Florida, which I may have a few extra days in rainy Florida because of the hurricane. But
what are you doing in Florida?
Working for candidates here.
Oh, okay.
My day job is I work for LGBTQ plus Victory, and we have several candidates in Florida.
How are they doing?
Candidates. Don't know yet. It's still early for down ballot candidates. But Victory has more than 500 candidates across the country that I'm tracking. So we have already some great successes.
Well, great to hear that. Now, tell me about your thoughts on Harris County. I want to hear the big picture from you because you were big time in here for quite a while.
Okay, but tell me what's been happening in Harris County. I haven't seen any of the election returns.
It's not out yet.
Well, there's probably not much in yet because it's still just the early vote.
Right, but I guess what I'm trying to get from you is your thoughts on things like what were your thoughts on the judges, the commissioner's court?
It's been a frustrating time, I know, for Democrats. Mm-hmm. I have been surprised recently with Democratic women who were so concerned with crime issues that they were turning away from Lina Hidalgo. Mm-hmm. A huge surprise to me. I mean, we're a big city. There's a certain amount of crime, big urban area. But if you believe the hype on the Republican side, you'd think there were riots in the street every night.
Oh my God! Thank you for saying
that.
And
it's like Mad Max out there. And I'm afraid that too many people bought into that.
Why?
Now I'm very hopeful about that we pick up that Leslie Briones picks up the Commissioner's Court seat from Jack Tagle. That would be a win. I mean, a significant win in that whatever happens in the county judge's race, it would leave some balance over on the Commissioner's Court.
Yeah, that is interesting. I really think if the people vote in Harris County, you can't help but bring in Briones. You can't help but bring in Lina Hidalgo, even with all the headwinds that she has. But we don't quite have the numbers yet as far as what has occurred today. I know that we voted pretty well in the last few days of the election, but we don't know what has occurred today yet.
No, we don't know.
Since I'm out in the hustings, I'm glued to what's happening in other places. Feeling cautiously optimistic about Georgia with Raphael Warnock. A little more nervous about Stacey Abrams. There's a pickup of a Democratic. There's a new governor in Massachusetts. We're going to have a Democratic governor there. It looks like Beasley in North Carolina may have held on to in the Senate race.
I can't believe that one, though, Anise. Can you believe the one in North Carolina?
Well, I think the House races are all about gerrymandered seats.
Right.
I mean, this is about the right wing has done a great job in shaping these seats, but the Senate's about bigger issues, and I think we lose the House and we pick up in the Senate.
Wow.
Which is going to be critical. I mean,
judges.
For all that the Senate has been frustrating. The Senate is, where the brakes get pumped. Although we should get if Kevin McCarthy is the new Speaker of the House, get ready for
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Anise, when you're looking at this and these possibilities, what concerns you the most?
We have to hold on to pick up seats in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's not just about Joe Biden's agenda, which is important, personally, and I think is important for the country. But so many of these Senate candidates are MAGA believers. They're election deniers.
Yep.
They are anti-democratic. And when I say, you know, we need that bulwark in the Senate, because if we lose the House, again, the same thing, these very gerrymandered, right-wing, right-leaning congressional seats, it's going to be a free fire zone for every crackpot, anti-Biden, anti-democratic, Trump really won the last election nutball out there. A lot of them are running, and Kevin McCarthy has already shown that he has no willingness to stand up to the crazy faction of his party, and we're going to have endless show trials.
It is going to be a sad state if they don't pull it through. Now, I'm looking at some of these congressional races, and Luria looked like she's in trouble, but I am not sure based on where the numbers are coming in. So I think it's going to be a long night after all, Anise.
It's going to be a long night. Of course it's going to be a long night. Now, I'm here on the East Coast, and I'm staying up because I'm tracking a bunch of races on the West Coast. So for victory and the LGBTQ candidates that I am working with, it's going to be a good night. It's already a good night. We have our first lesbian governor. We have
that's in Massachusetts, right?
In Massachusetts, we have Becca Balint, a new member of Congress from Vermont. And like I said, I'm watching some of the races where Democrats are doing well, but I have a particular concern also with the Oregon governor's race, where you have three women, which is actually a milestone. You have three women running for governor, but we are backing Tina Kotek, the Democrat, out there, and she has been neck and neck with the Republicans for weeks, and there's a third-party candidate siphoning off votes. Former Democrat who turned independent, and she just is pulling more from Tina than from the other candidates. So that's going to be the one that I stay up late to watch.
Well, I wish you luck. I wish you luck, man. I think it's all going to be fine. So let me hear your prediction for the Senate: 52 or 54.
I'm going to say 52.
You say 52. Actually, you know what? After seeing the Beasley race and what I'm seeing so far, if it holds, I am going 54, my friend.
Oh wow!
I hope so.
That would be wonderful.
I hope you're calling it. I hope you're calling it right. I think Ryan over J.D. Vance, and I think Beasley in North Carolina,
and Fetterman in PA.
Yeah,
and I also have Warnock is not a pickup, so that wouldn't change anything. But there's one other one, and that is Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't seen the results.
We'll see. Anyway, anything else you want to tell us before we close out? It's always great hearing from you.
Yes.
I'm happy to call in. I'm just so grateful that there are people who care. I was out canvassing for Chanel Perez, who's a Democrat running for state senate here in Miami, and I'm getting to where I'm having a hard time being polite to people who say, "Well, my vote doesn't matter. Why should I? I don't think I'm going to vote." If you're not happy with how things are, how is staying home and not doing anything going to make it better?
Thank you. But Anise, we have to, and you know quite a few of these folks. We have to change our messaging. We do have to change our
messaging. But I mean, this is the logic I would use with my 3-year-old grandson. I mean, I understand that no politician is perfect.
Right.
No agenda is able to be executed completely. Politics is about give and take and compromise. But go in with realistic expectations and understand that giving up means that no change.
Absolutely so. Wally, you want to ask anything before we go?
No, I think it's Susan's turn to ask.
Well, I think I heard some bit of data today, Anise, that we have in all 50 states now LGBTQ people on the ticket.
Yes, but there were 4 states where we've never elected anyone LGBT to a state house. And we're going to be down to 2, I think, by the end of the evening. I know good chance of electing someone to the Alaska House, and it's been a long day. I just went blank on the other states. If you're interested in the state of the LGBT candidates, the Victory tracks there were 416 LGBT candidates that we've endorsed that are still on that are on the ballot today. And if you go to the website, victoryfund.org, we're doing live tracking all across the country for those races tonight. And you will see how Alaska's doing.
And East Park, and we may actually get a House seat as well. Hold on to that House seat in Alaska that was won from Sarah Palin.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Mary Peralta is a phenomenal
She's a
candidate.
hell of a candidate. But look, thank you so kindly for being with us for this short time, Anise.
Thank you.
All right. Y'all have a great evening. Keep up
You
the good
too.
work.
Hey, Scott, come on in. Scott, are you there? Talk to me.
Yeah, what's happening?
Nah, we're just here listening to you, brother.
Well, we're here in Travis County, in Austin, watching the results roll in. Secretary of State's website, of course, is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So wait for your local news agency that you trust to report out the numbers. But we've, of course, been looking at the early vote totals, from the last couple of weeks. And, if you just look at the data, it seems to me that it would not be surprising for when the night is all, shaken out, when we have all the results, that Beto O'Rourke would probably lose by double digits. But there's a long way to go, a lot of votes to be counted. We will see what happens.
Okay, that's not. And what about my friend Collier? Do you have any numbers on Collier?
No numbers yet on any of that, and I'm going slow here because we don't have full numbers from around the state yet. We're starting to see, if you look at some of the vote totals coming out, and these are early vote totals coming from places like Tarrant County, Dallas County, here in Travis County where I am in Austin, down in Bexar County, and some of the more populous counties. Those are and this is something to keep in mind as you go through the night. The more populous counties, the urban centers, will report their numbers first.
Right.
And so if you start to see results that look like that they are, pretty good for Democrats, you have to temper that by saying, okay, all of the other 200 plus rural counties have not reported their numbers yet, and that's probably about a little under half the vote out there out in the country. And so you got to keep that in mind. Remember back in 2018, and just tonight I was listening to CNN on the radio as I was driving to the next location. I'm going from one election party to the next year, which is my tradition on election night. They just said on CNN that Beto O'Rourke seemed to be leading, but they were, in the lead, but they're only seeing some of the urban numbers. And of course, it'll be a while before we see numbers out of where you are.
Now, how big is the lead that they're reporting? Because that does matter.
I honestly, I don't even remember because it doesn't matter that much.
No, but my question to you though, Scott, is where did you get that it would likely be a double digit loss?
Because if you look at the early vote totals, when you had more than 4 million people vote, you have to look at who's voting, people with more Republican primary history or Democratic primary history. Then you also have to look at the people that Beto O'Rourke is counting on to win. That would be young people, that would be women under 45, and they are not voting, and at least not yet. That's not what we've seen in the data.
Oh, okay, because the reason I said that is in Harris County, we are 45. We are about 10 points ahead. The differential is 10 points here in the largest county.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. Yeah.
But it's an interesting point. But one thing that puts a wrinkle in it for the Republicans potentially, and I was looking at this earlier this evening, is that if you look at the early vote data in the top 25 most populous counties in Texas, women are outvoting men.
That's
more women
great.
have been voting.
Yeah.
More women have been voting. To the tune of something like 51 to 52%.
That is great.
Over the men in the most populous counties. I've never seen that before in a quarter century of reporting on Texas politics.
Well,
we'll
again,
see how
I
that
ask
shakes
you.
out. But again, it's not young women though. Young people just aren't voting. So we'll see how that shakes out.
Oh, okay. Now I tell you one thing about remember that the women who supported Roe v. Wade are now no longer young women.
That's true.
So let's remember that. So when you see 52, so I think we ought to be cognizant of that, because the women that are screaming bloody murder right now, or my friends that are 55 to 75 years old, and I tell you what, my listeners that are 75 years old, those are the most potent women out there. They are like, we fought, man, we fought. We're not going to do this again.
Well, so that's why I bring it up. Why I bring it up. I think to me that was the most eye-popping.
Thank you for saying that, because you bust my bubble and now you've reinflated it.
Hey, I'm here to provide balance. That's what I do.
Anything? Go ahead.
Hey, thanks a lot for giving us this information. Was there anything in particular else that's standing out with you?
As we go through the evening, I think people just need to keep in mind, and look, it may be that they're in Houston, and this is a tradition in Houston politics, right, that it takes a long time to tabulate the votes and get the results out. It's in some ways, if you look at the national scene and compare it to Texas, Harris County might make the joke that it's the Pennsylvania of Texas. It's going to take a while to count those votes, but the fact is that you want to get it right? I always tell people, hey, look, there are those who say that you got to get it out quick, and that's the most important thing. I would say that the most important thing is getting it right. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that those results have to be out on the same night. That's more of a media creation, and I would trust our local officials to get it right and let us know what happened.
Scott, you are so right, my friend. You are so right. Well, look, thank you so kindly for being with us for this time, and please remember to tell all your friends there in Travis County, where I think you're calling from, that there's this station in Houston, Harris County, the biggest county in Texas, that love hearing from all you guys. All right.
Well, we love y'all. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm listening to this here, and so far, I think, Susan, you don't have to get drunk tonight.
Well, it's not that I was going to get drunk. But
no, I am just kidding. Folks, I'm just kidding. Don't.
No. I came in with a bottle of very spicy ginger ale, saying I need to feel the burn. Just for that calming effect. But there is some comfort, I think, in hanging out in a pub and watching together with your friends. Yeah. I wonder how many people are doing that this evening.
A lot. I think people are scared. I don't think we scared them enough to be. For those of us who wanted more positive results, I think we played. If you listen to what Akua was saying, Akua was so right. When she's talking about, when she itemized all these issues, right? It is so hard to start defining an election in the way the right defines the election, because it just doesn't go with our character. Mm-hmm. But you have to ask yourself, the question is, to support the folks who we know need support, should we fight in a manner to win, to ensure that they are protected? And that is the sort of things that I'm starting to think about now, is that maybe I have to forget about, when I say me, I'm talking about the way we think, and start fighting on the battlefield that they provided for us to fight.
Introduce a little more hyperbole, maybe.
That too, right? It is like that thing that I said about the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care.
Right.
When you're sitting down in Austin and you're making laws and you're making it just look ideological, people can say, "Oh, well, that's just my ideological bent." But when you have your mother, your father, your brother, your sister die because they had a pre-existing condition, they don't fall within the Medicaid and the regular insurance realm. They're right there in between, and there's nothing for them.
There's a fine line between being measured and being meek.
Exactly. I love that.
Yeah, good point.
I love that. Where'd you get that from?
I don't know. I pull these things out of my head.
That's a good one. I'm
I'm
going to use that.
Well, I used to be a commercial copywriter.
No wonder.
So.
No wonder. Okay, because I'm sitting down there. Oh, measured me. Yeah, that works. And we got to learn that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's something that we don't know. And I think, again, one of the things about it is the thing about insanity, right? If you do things the same way over and over again and expect a different result, you know, I mean, this cycle that they talk about, the party out of power, lose. I mean, there's no reason for that cycle. There's no reason for the cycle of recession, boom and bust that we have. There's no reason. We're just doing things the same way we've always done it. Why not change?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I agree that we need to just get out a better message and get it out more powerfully.
Yeah, and let people start voting in their... because, you know, I have a sister that's on the right, you know, and suddenly, you know, the only thing that gets to her, I mean, they're I guess our psychologies are different, but the only way to get to some people is for them to see, oh, this is actually going to affect your kid. And sometimes you care about your kid more than you care about yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So you find out that that's going to affect your kid, and suddenly, it changed. I remember speaking to one of the women that called into the show, and her son, she hated the Affordable Care Act. Her son had an issue, and she's like, he doesn't qualify anyway. And you know, I did some research and found out, there's a way for your kid to get it. And the kid got it, and she she sent a long email. You saved the kid's life. We didn't know that because the people who she listens to,
yes,
mm-hmm.
told her this stuff was so bad when it actually saved her son.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
How do you get that message to people who are in information silos? I mean, a lot of times I just feel like, any of the programming I listen to I would call it mainstream, right? I wouldn't necessarily call major newspapers one way or another. I mean, for goodness sake, didn't the Dallas, what is the name of their paper?
The Dallas News, yeah, Morning News, yeah.
Yeah, they supported Abbott,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Which was, and I just don't understand how people are not getting information. How do you break through those silos?
You know, one of the things that I see on my other program here is like, you have to get people to like you. You know, you have to get people to like you so that they can start trusting you. And then when they start trusting you, they'll start listening to you.
That's a sales mantra.
Yeah. Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, and believe it or not, those are the tactics that I'm saying I'm trying, right? In other words, like, how can I get my message across? First, you have to get them. They only listen to you if they like you, and then they start listening to you and they trust you if you start bringing up some trustworthy things. And after they trust you, then you can actually probably teach something, you know. And
yeah. But the thing is that I have a lot of relatives who are on the far right, and they trust me and they love me, but they think I'm brainwashed.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's just no. So you find that it's just to get along, you just don't discuss politics, which is hard because you need to correct things. It's like playing whack-a-mole.
Well, you know, I ran through this stuff. Wait, were you about to say something? What?
I'll go ahead and finish your thought. Then I'll say
no, mine is a little bit longer, so I defer.
Well, I'm just going to touch on what you were saying, and that is that we have people that they're getting their information from this source that isn't reliable, but they believe it.
They believe it with all of their heart. It's their identity.
Yes. And we can have the best facts in the world, but if they are convinced that they're right, then they're not going to pay any attention to what we have to say.
I've tried showing them that what they're posting on Facebook is incorrect, like Snopes or PolitiFact, and they'll say, "Well, those are left," or they're suspicious of anything that does not agree with their worldview, and it's crushing.
You ever heard of the Powell Memo?
No.
The Powell Memo was written by Lewis Powell. He was appointed to the Supreme Court. He wrote a document that's pretty much, I'm paraphrasing, Americans are getting too intelligent. They're becoming progressive, and they're starting to ask questions about why businesses, why is it that the executives make so much more money than anything? And what he said that they had to do is the commerce department, what is it called? Chamber of Commerce had to go out there and infiltrate universities, churches, the schools, and everything to put out the point of view of the corporation. In other words, how necessary they were, and we had to snuff out these liberal thinkers that's a danger to them. And it is amazing how we got things like the Cato Institute, the Heritage Foundation, and all these other organizations being a genesis from that document.
Well, I think we need actually to get the Lincoln Project to start running ads for Democrats.
Yes, yeah, they're good.
Well, and you mentioned Cato. Used to, on NPR, it would say that this is a libertarian organization, but then that just went away, and that's become a reliable source at some point.
Yes, it is really, really crazy that and these guys, they have the money they know how to hit your psychological nerves, right? They know, they have a psychology behind all of this, that they know how to feed you, that you take these things. You remember that book by Thomas Frank?
Yeah.
The Whatever Happened to Kansas or something like that, And, his message was a psychological message, right? And these are things that I think we have to get away from our righteousness and kind of learn how to adopt it, because we're falling back. Every time we don't do that, we fall back.
Just have to keep moving, keep going.
We got to keep going, and that's why we do what we do, right?
Right.
That's why we have the Progressive Forum, right, Wally?
Yep, that's why we're here. That's why we have all of these programs. And tell us about
Open Journal.
Yes, Open Journal.
Yes. Remind us again, let's remind people when our shows are. When is Progressive Forum?
Progressive Forum is at 6 p.m. on Thursdays, and we had been on originally at 7, then 6, and then 11, and so we're all moving around. But yes, we're now on at 6 p.m. on Thursday.
Right.
Go ahead.
Open Journal is now on 6 o'clock on Monday nights, and we're very happy because that was what we used to have before. And I have to say, okay, first of all, when is your show now?
Politics Done Right is Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at noon.
I'm so glad you're on more often. And I have to tell you, though, back when you used to be on, I think it was Thursdays at 3, that's how I discovered you, because that was right when I was picking up my kids from school.
Oh, really?
And so my kids know who you are. And so we would
them.
listen to Egberto every Thursday.
I love to hear that, man. Thank you. But look, let me tell you something, guys. First of all, I want to thank our listeners. We have about 2 more minutes left, 3 more minutes left on this program. For all of you who called in, thank you for calling in. Please make sure and let folks know about KPFT 90.1 FM. We have great programs. You're listening to 3 hosts from, again, Progressive Forum, Open Journal, and Politics Done Right. We love what we do, and we love making sure that we inform. And please call us, call into our programs. Let us know that you're out there listening. So I'm going to shut up here and pass the mic on to Brother Wally.
Wally.
I just want to thank everybody that supports KPFT. We just came through a fund drive, and we actually did very well. It's the best fund drive we've had in a long time, and that's because of all of you out there that support KPFT. And so we won't have to have one for a little while. And so what you're doing, supporting this station, means so much to all of us, and you're helping to get this information, this music, everything that KPFT is out to more people. So thank you for that.
Yes. Well, just remember that there is a tip jar on our website on kpft.org that you can just sort of donate at any time. You don't have to wait till a fund drive.
That's right.
Right? And it's the gift that keeps on giving. So
Absolutely so, folks. And if you go to our kpft.org and just hit our donate button and support this program that belongs to you, this station that belongs to you, that would actually cause us to have less fun drives. So give us a call at 713. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. All right. Thank you. Let me tell you, folks, we really appreciate our community. So please, again, tell folks about us. Tomorrow, start calling again, 713-526-5738, and hit that number 2 to talk if you want to give out one. Anyhow, we have 1 more minute left. I want to thank you for spending this time with us. I want to tell you, stay engaged in our body politic. That is why we are here. We cannot do this without you, first of all, and the country cannot do it without you making the appropriate choices for those who run this country. Many folks, Susan and Wally, were scared about today. If these numbers that I'm seeing hold up, I think if they hold up,
yes,
I think we would have dodged the bullet.
Well, that would be wonderful. I sure hope so. Amy Goodman is coming up next with her special, so stick around for that.
Folks, thank you so kindly for being here. We are about to turn this over to Amy Goodman and Democracy Now!